So it's like 100 degrees out now, so I figure you need these hot hand warmers because, how many times you go into a very cold, air-conditioned place and your hands are freezing? So you should always bring some hot hand warmers with you at all times, even if it's 100 degrees there. So if you haven't used these, you have like gunpowder in here or something, so you rip it open and you gotta do a good shake. Shake it up, shake it up, shake. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the Yankees are just up against the trade deadline, was kind of waiting for a big move to happen because there are a couple of moves that have already been made. That's, of course, with Ryan McMahon as well as Ahmad Rosario. Kind of introduced them last week as two possibilities. Well, I guess they're both Yankees there, so we'll kind of go over that there. I thought we'd maybe get one of them. You got both. Why not there? But, of course, the Yankees in a little bit of trouble right now, kind of still stuck there in second place in the AL East and kind of slipping down a little bit there. But I will give you a little optimism why for the at least August and September. I'll give just give you a preview of the Yankee schedule there where they do have an opportunity to get back into that and then eventually get in the lead of the AL East, where they still think they'll be able to do it, especially if they could pull up one more good move at this trade deadline. But of course, the Yankees getting the tough news with Judge having to go to IL. Obviously, you can't replace the captain, you can't replace an MVP there. But it only seems like 10 days, but I'll kind of give you what the plan is for when he does come back there. And of course, maybe we'll have some positives here. I know there's some negatives going around with Anthony Volpe. We'll touch that a little bit there. But of course, some positives in the Yankees, and maybe this is off the field stuff doesn't really count there. But of course, CeCe Sabathia formally announced into Cooperstown in the Hall of Fame there. So we'll kind of look at that real quickly. And of course, we got upcoming there, Old Timers Day, and kind of it's going to be a little bit retro Old Timers Day the way it should be, with the players actually playing a game there. But a little controversy regarding Derek Jeter, whether he's going to attend or not. And of course, we know this is a bit of a story a couple of weeks ago. I didn't really get a touch upon it. We'll kind of use an opportunity now to touch upon that. So a lot of good stuff. So we've got on the field, off the field, trade deadline stuff, a lot of stuff for you. But make sure before we get started here, subscribe to the audio podcast version of Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Again, there could be some moves coming down by tomorrow, the next day, something like that, or whenever there. You want to get my takes on it. So subscribe to the audio podcast version. Again, you would have got my take, right after they made the McMahon trade, for example. So subscribe there. And of course, you're watching right now on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and on TV. You got a little extra work to do. Make sure you get the audio podcast version of the show, which you love and run. You're running at the gym or something like that. But you also want to see me often. You want to see me on your mobile phone while you're taking the subway. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Get the whole ball game. So as we film this right now, we're almost up against the trade deadline. So you figure the Yankees are at least going to make one or two more moves. We don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be a blockbuster move? Is it going to be a nondescript move? Kind of hard to see there. You got Cashman's kind of viewing this team right now. Now, as they stand right now, this second as I'm reading this, they have 57 and 49. So only 8 games above 500, which, not where you want to be when you remember how the Yankees were, met a month or two ago, really before the hot, summer season started there. The Yankees almost look like they're going to walk away with this division. Again, you're almost like kind of lighting the scars and popping the champagne bottles there. Well, now actually it's a bit of a dogfight, and worse than a dogfight. The Yankees find themselves almost luckily only 5.5 games back in second place, and you have to almost thank Detroit as well as Baltimore for helping the Yankees out with a couple of wins against Toronto Blue Jays. Otherwise, the Yankees could easily be 7 or 8 games back there, where now you're almost like exclusively thinking yourself as a wild card team. Now, right this very second, again, it's a little too early to look at it. Right now, the Yankees are that first wild card team in the AL. So I meant, okay, if you want to take a little solace in that, but obviously this team should be much better than that. And obviously for Cashman, if he's going to view this team as they got a legitimate job for the World Series, it just depends where he's, will he go to Cal to make a big mega type of move there, or does the team kind of, if it seems like a type of team, not as good as they were last season, maybe they pull back a little bit. They don't make that big blockbuster superstar move there, because maybe if you add that person to this team, especially the fact that Judge is out a little bit there, again, you have some guys underperforming and you have some issues on the team, maybe it's not worth making that big move there. So it's going to be interesting how Cashman views this team, whether they, as he always says, whether they deserve to be made a move or not. I think overall you have to say they are, at least for the majority, again, up to the summer there where they kind of really hit a bad speed bump. This was looking like a very good, team that, I don't say the World Series, caliber there, but very close to it there. So I think Cashman, if he's on the borderline of whether he wants to give up that extra prospect or not, make that a little extra effort or not, I think he would do it just for this team. Because, again, if you just look at the rest of Toronto above them, it's not like Toronto's exponentially better than the Yankees where they have no shot. I think, again, if the Yankees get all this stuff together and, clean up some of the errors there, they should be better than Toronto. I still think they still have the most likelihood of getting the AL East there. So, if Cashman's on the fence with something, I think he will make a move there. But again, we just got to see what it depends, whether it's a big starting pitcher, some other superstar play to add to this lineup there. And of course, now it's getting a little interesting with Judge, who he will be back there, but it looks like he's going to be relegated to a DH, which we'll get into that a little bit later right now. So you bring in another outfielder, another big name outfielder there. So it's going to be interesting what they do there. But again, a move can almost like come down any second. Even as I'm saying this right now, a move can come down. Now, I was thinking, why are the Yankees in this position? Really because they shot themselves in the foot, mainly in the AL East, where you started the season, there wasn't that much competition, yet the Yankees have not performed well against the AL East foes, mainly teams like Toronto Blue Jays, mainly against the Red Sox, especially a team like the Red Sox, where you should be beating. At least Toronto, you can understand a little bit there, but meaning a team like the Red Sox, Yankees have had a tough time against them. But if you want to look overall at the AL East, Yankees are 11-19, so they're 8 games under in the AL East so far in 2025. That's kind of probably the main reason why they are in the position they are. Mainly with Toronto. Toronto's just handling them very well, especially when the Yankees go up in there in Toronto. You can see another pep in their step. Guerrero's into the game. They get drawing big crowds there. And the Yankees, for a reason, they get a little sloppy up there, whether it's giving up big home runs like Luke Weaver or just kicking the ball around the infield like Volpe there. The Yankees, this team can't get the act together, especially when they play the Blue Jays up in Toronto there. But I got a little good news for you there. So once we turn the page there from July into August, now, Yankees' schedule is relatively overall quite easy in the last 2 months. And that doesn't mean anything. Obviously, you got to play the games, you got to win all that stuff there. And now I'm not going to minus then the Yankees also have to play some very good teams, such as they play the Blue Jays a couple more times. You got the Red Sox, where the Yankees kind of been struggling a little bit against. You got the Houston Astros, you got the Detroit Tigers. So the Yankees are going to play some really good competition in the last 2 months. But the majority of the the series they have in the next 2 months there, teams aren't that very good, ain't that really great there. So the Yankees do have a time to really bounce back and capitalize. And I was kind of collectively give the records to this team, the way these teams are right now. And you got to understand one thing. After the trade deadline, a lot of these teams are pretty much out of it right now. They're super going to be out of it because whatever they're going to be, they're probably going to be sellers. Whatever good players they have, they're probably going to offload. And this is, by the time these players are kind of, they start making their off-season plans, they start making their golf plans, they start planning the off-season vacations, like that. So, again, their mind's probably not going to be really into playing winning baseball. So it's an opportunity for the Yankees to play these teams when they're at their lowest and then hopefully use that to recoup themselves. And kind of did this last season, look at some numbers there, but again, we'll bring it in this season where at least I think it should give you some optimism. Obviously, the team's lousy, not playing well, and Volpe's kicking the ball all over the place, then not much you can do there. But again, if they get their act together, and maybe if Cashman pulls off one significant more move by the trade deadline, I think the Yankees have a good time to use those last 2 months to capitalize them. So here's the teams they're going to be facing in August and September. Got the Marlins at 50-55, 5 games under there. You got the White Sox at 39-68. Again, we all know the joke with the White Sox. Again, they're almost 30 games under 500. Of course, the Texas. Now, they're a good team because they have DeGrom floating around there. You never want to face DeGrom, but still, 56, only 6 games over 500, so legitimate good team, and some teams actually think they're going to have a better second half, so we'll see what they got to do with that. St. Louis Cardinals, they're only 2 games over 500, and of course the Washington Nationals kind of down there in the dumps with the White Sox. They're 44-62, so they're almost 20 games under 500. So those teams, again, this is all in this August there. Now, there's a couple of good series in there as well there, but if you want to look at these lousy teams the Yankees are playing in August, at least the bad ones I pointed out there, collectively their record is 294 wins versus 343 losses. So if you want to do the math there, collectively, those teams I mentioned, they're 49 games under 500. So you got a chunk of teams there that right now aren't playing well or just borderline or just really terrible right now that the Yankees will be playing in August. So again, they have time to get some wins against those type of teams. And if you want to jump ahead to September, again, it's a little bit of a shorter month technically, but if there's some series that the Yankees should be capitalized, you got 2 different series against Baltimore, away and home there. Again, Baltimore at last place in the AL East there. 1 more series against the terrible Chicago White Sox, so you get them again. And then last but not least, Minnesota, who right now, they're 5 games under 500, so we'll go through quickly. Baltimore at 48-58, so they're 10 games under that. Already gave the White Sox record, and again, the Minnesota Twins right now are 50-55, so they're 5 games under, and they just traded off 2 of their top relievers in the bullpen just a couple of days ago, so they're obviously going to be sellers at the trade deadline, and by September, they're going to just be out of it. They'll probably have September call-ups and rookies and minor league players there. Again, those are games you should be able to win for the Yankees, and if you want to look at the record collectively for those games, teams I mentioned, 137 wins versus 181. losses. So if you want to do a little bit of math again, that's 44 games collectively, those teams, 44 games under 500 there. So you see the Yankees paying a lot of subpar teams in these last 2 months there. I mentioned there are a couple good series in there, so it's not all a cakewalk, but really the Yankees should use this opportunity. It's there for them where they can start racking up a lot of wins and kind of use that little momentum to start getting hot the last couple of months of the season, kind of carry that into October. And that's kind of almost what happened last season, if I recall. They did struggle in June, struggle in July there. They eventually had to pull Clay Holmes out of the closer role. He just completely imploded there. Put Luke Weaver in there, and then from that point on, moving forward, of course, they added Jazz and stuff at the trade deadline. The team really picked it up, and they carried that into October. And as well as far they get, and again, lost to probably a better Dodgers team there. So right now, unless I think things are rosy for the Yankees, but they're kind of right there. You got to worry about the Judge UCL there. But if you want to look at that competition coming up in the next 2 months there, they should capitalize. But what shot them in the foot, at least to this point there, is again against their AL East foes, 11-19. That's not going to get it done. So they got to use that and improve. As I mentioned before, they got a couple of series against the Baltimore Orioles twice there. You can make a little room there. A couple more games against Tampa and a couple more series against the Toronto Blue Jays. So they got time to make room for that, as well as the Boston Red Sox. I don't think they'll maybe go over 500, but if you just balance that out a little bit there and just win the game you're supposed to win, definitely Yankees got a very good chance of getting the AL East and at the very least get into the playoffs as a wild card team. But again, I think they still should shoot for the AL East. So, obviously you want to be optimism for the rest of the season because in the back of your mind, you got to worry about Aaron Judge. Now, obviously going on the IL, this a 10-day IL, so it doesn't think it's going to be a long stint. Sometimes they say, well, players only be 50 days of IL and he's out for 2 months. Seems like it's going to be a legit, really close to the 10 days, so that's good news there. They did look at the elbow. That was back on July 26th there, and they saw no structural damage, no tear to the UCL, and that's kind of what Jason Dominguez had a couple of seasons ago when he needed Tommy John surgery there. So obviously that would have been the end of the season, of course, from there. But obviously it is something you could be concerned with. So it turns out this be a right elbow flexor strain there, something that's not going to require any type of surgery or any sort of major rehab or something like that. So it looks like he should be able to come back in the 10 days. But of course, when he does come back, it seems like they want to just relegate him to a DH at least for the near term, which kind of makes sense. We also saw that image of him in Toronto making a throw, then grimacing. So, obviously Judge has a big arm. He has a strong arm there. So you don't want a situation where he's playing right field and makes a strong throw and then re-aggravates something or even tears something at that point. So you can understand bringing him back, just as a DH role, which fine, you got his bat there. Is he going to be 100%? No, maybe he's just only 92, 93% of Judge there. Offensively, you still take that. But of course, now you're losing a major chunk there in right field because, he is a Gold Glove caliber defenseman. Even if he doesn't win the Gold Glove each season there, you all know he could do it. Even for a big man, he could run down a lot of balls. He could dive. And of course, with his height, 6'7", there, how many balls do you see him jump up and rob, especially at Yankee Stadium there? So you're going to lose all that. Now, the Yankees, I think, at least defensively be competent and be seeing some Cody Bellinger at right field, and they can figure it out. It's not the end of the world there. But obviously, again, it is a major loss losing Judge there because you are losing an A-plus defender out there. But of course, you just don't want to risk him. You need his at-bat in that lineup if the Yankees have any chance to do something this season there. Now, you've been hearing some noise and rumors with, which I totally don't think it's going to happen, I totally disagree with, is them actually looking at possibly Giancarlo Stanton as an outfield option. As we know, yes, he used to be a right fielder, and we've seen the Yankees, briefly use him a couple of times there, but in no way I can see that as a possibility, just for a number of reasons. First of all, he's just kind of coming back and getting into the groove of things, and his bat's really getting hot. It started up right before the All-Star break and carried over afterwards. It was out on pace almost. It seemed like it was hitting a home run almost every game there, so he's in a good groove. Why would you want to ruin anything? He's already dealing with the bad elbows, which I guess he's able to play through with some discomfort. Now you're going to throw him in the outfield there, which he really hasn't played in almost 3 or 4 seasons. It just doesn't make sense. And again, we know his body has the issues there. Obviously, so far this season, obviously he came back. He started late because of the elbow issue. Other than that, he's been able to stay relatively healthy. No Achilles injuries, no hamstring injuries, no groin injuries. You're going to put him out in the outfield at age 35, now having flag balls in August when you have all these 100-degree days in, his body's dehydrated. So I don't think it's a possibility. I just think someone just threw it out there. I can't really see them doing that. It would just be bad news. Here's a guy last season, admittedly, the Yankees admitted that they told him just don't bother running around the bases. Kind of walk fast, if you can there, but don't run. So you're going to take a guy like that and then throw him in the right field at Yankee Stadium, have him run balls down and make diving catches and stuff like that. Maybe, a pride thing. Could he do it? Maybe he could cut it out there. But within a week, he's going to hurt something. So, and I just don't see the Yankees risk doing that. So even though you'll be hearing that noise, I just don't think it's going to happen. Now, what that leaves you with is now you have two pretty much of the same player, two big right-handed power hitters as your DH. Well, you can't play both at the same time there. So, if that's the case, the Yankees is going to have to make some decisions. You look at the pitching matchups, who's got the better edge. Maybe there's that one pitcher out there that just dominates Judge, but Stanton hits well off the guy. All right, well, I guess you just sit Judge for that game, have Stanton make the start, and then later a game, Judge could always come off the bench for a pinch hit or pinch run pinch hit situation. Obviously, you don't want a pinch running there. But most of the case, maybe the Judges is going to get a lot more bats, and Stanton's going to see a lot more time on the bench there, and maybe just use Stanton for one at bat later in the game there. So one of those guys is going to have to be suffer. Obviously, Judge is probably get the majority of the playing time, but again, you have kind of two of the same players right now. I don't really think that's something you could deal with right now at the trade deadline. I don't think the Yankees are looking to trade Giancarlo Stanton. Would they love to ideally somehow? Yeah, but I mean, I don't see anyone taking him with the hurt elbows and his injury history, as well as the big salary he still has coming up for the next couple of seasons there. So he's still going to be a Yankee. Maybe the Yankees looking to move him during the offseason. You'd package him away to something else because you can't really have two of the same player, especially now as Judge is going to start getting a little older. He's 33 now. Before you know, he's going to be 35, 36 there, and you have to maybe talk to that Judge, maybe not even playing the field anymore there. So at a certain point, they're going to have to make a decision on Stanton, but I don't see that happening during this trade deadline. And again, when Judge comes back there, at least for the next few weeks, he's probably just going to be a DH, and for Stanton, he's probably going to be the odd man out. He's just probably going to be relegated to the bench, and maybe he just comes off once in a while the bench, in a big spot to try to get a big home run, which we saw him do earlier this season, got his first career pinch hit home run. So, man, it's just something he's going to have to get adapted to. So I mentioned a couple times already, we're coming up against the trade deadline. Again, something juicy could come down right now, but of course we'll look at some previous moves Cashman already made. Now, the last episode, we kind of did a breakdown for third base. Of course, everyone's kind of looking at, maybe Suarez, which would have been great. We all love Suarez, but you have to assume the asking price for him was probably going to be a lot, even though he's only going to be like a 2.5-month rental there. So the Yankees probably going to go with some other options there. One of them we did introduce Ryan McMahon as one option there, because there's mainly, you figure the ask price wouldn't be too hard, and he's under control for a couple seasons there. So for both sides there, it seemed like it would be a good deal there. So he was a possibility. And then I almost threw out there, because I was kind of reading around a little bit, Ahmad Rosario, who the Yankees might have been looking at. Now, of the two of them, I thought Rosario was more reasonable. In fact, I just thought his asking price would be much lower. And plus, he's, again, same thing, he's only a 2.5-month rental, so you have to give much to get him. So it turns out the Yankees get both there. So, why not? Take them both there. Obviously, the first move was Ryan McMahon. The Yankees shipping out for a pair of minor league arms there. You don't have to give up much. Now, one of the arms there was a lefty and had a really, really low ERA, so you don't want to give up a lefty like that. But, it's only minor leagues. You don't know how these guys are going to pan out, and you kind of need help right now. So, and McMahon, legitimate third baseman, solid defense, has a little pop and power. Again, the only hesitation I had about him was his low batting average there, 219. I mean, the Yankees have enough guys that are hitting low as it is, and plus we know the history of some guys such as like Joey Gallo and Josh Donaldson hitting around 200 and whiffing there, and it just drives you nuts there. But again, I think it was a good move for the Yankees to make that. And then shortly after, they got the guy who I thought they would get originally, and that's Ahmad Rosario, the former Met there, and he's bounced around a little bit between Cleveland, Tampa, the Dodgers there, more recently with the Nationals, and of course now the Yankees making a trade for him. The big move, big piece they gave to get Rosario was Clayton Beeter, who we saw a little bit of up and down a little bit. He actually been hurt a little bit, but the time he was here, we weren't wowed by him, so I think it was okay that, and they kind of threw in some outfield prospect as well there. Beeter, of course, the Yankees got when they traded Joey Gallo to the Dodgers there, but again, Beeter, you weren't wowed by them. I'm okay letting him go to get someone like Rosario. Not that he's great and terrific there, but of course he could serve a couple of different purposes for the Yankees. Number one, he could be a platoon at third base with McMahon. So McMahon, again, he's a lefty hitter, and against lefty pitching, he's only hitting 207 there, so he's like almost an automatic out, whereas Rosario kind of eats up southpaws. At least at the time they made the trade there, he was hitting 299, so pretty much hitting 300 against lefties there. So it gives Boone some option there. Obviously, if you're up against a lefty pitcher, you could give Rosario the start there, or vice versa. If it's a righty pitcher, and which most cases it is, you give McMahon the start there. Both have relatively good defense at third base. Now, Rosario, he did come up as a shortstop with the Mets there, but again, over the last few seasons, he's been moved around a little bit. Can play outfield if he needs to, can play second base if he needs to, and he can play third base. And the majority of the games he had so far for the Nationals was at third base. He did have one game at shortstop, so he can do it if need be. But he's going to kind of be a jack of all trades. Really, the Yankees haven't had since Oswaldo Cabrera went down and broke his ankle. I mean, Cabrera was that guy where he could play multiple positions. He could come off the bench. He could be a pinch runner. The Yankees really haven't had that since he went down with the broken ankle. Rosario can provide that a little bit. Only 29 years old, so he still has the wheels, still has the speed there, and that's going to kind of be his role. He's going to be probably a bit of a role player there coming off the bench here, spot start. Now, you can put on your conspiracy theory hat a little bit. Just the fact maybe Cashman's using him to dangle over Volpe's head. This is a bit of a warning shot. Say, hey, if you don't clean up your act a little bit in terms of cleaning up those errors, as well as doing a little bit better at the plate there, Rosario can play shortstop. Again, I'll mention he only played one game this season at shortstop, so I don't know if he would really make that move, but he has plenty of experience of doing it. So in a pinch, I meant Rosario could play shortstop. I don't think you would do that to Volpe maybe, but again, if Volpe continued to have these up and down games a little bit, you could use Rosario almost like a little motivation for maybe Volpe to get his act together. Maybe it'll work. We'll see that. And again, we'll discuss Volpe a little bit later in the episode there. But again, Rosario gives the Yankees a little bit of flexibility there. So good move, Cashman by both. And overall, to get these two guys, you're not paying them a ton really. McMahon's making kind of money. He's going to make $16 million over the next 2 seasons. But for some of his caliber, that he's going to probably hit around 25, 30 home runs. Obviously, I think it's a fair market, value for him there. It's again 60 minutes. Again, it's not peanuts, but it's not crazy. It's not like you took a guy on that had like 5 years left on his contract with 150 million there. So it's not a ton of money. All this guy there. So I think you can eat that. And Rosario, obviously, he's going to be a free agent after this season. That's really a drop in the bucket, and you don't have to give much to get him there. So I would say so far, good move by Cashman. I'll give him a solid B+ on those two guys there. You're not wow. Again, they're not Suarez, but again, they do upgrade the team. And at third base, you needed to make a move. You can't just keep running Peraza out there and there's like 160 batting average and some like JC Oscaro or this or kind of a platoon of Vivas and stuff like that. This is not going to work there because Vivas and both Scott Efros were sent down to the minors after that, obviously to make room for some of these new faces there. So again, you need a legitimate third baseman. So McMahon, even with his low batting average, can provide that. And again, his first got his first RBIs as a Yankee in a win against the Phillies there. Again, against a quality pitcher, Zach Wheeler, in a bases loaded situation, at least tied the game up at that point there. We see him really flash the leather, a couple of good plays in the field there. So feel good about McMahon so far there. But of course, Cashman probably is going to have some moves to make. We don't know if he's going to bring a big starter in. I mean, it's possible, but at least they're going to have to make some moves with the bullpen a little bit because, again, they're a little bit lagging there. You have some players that haven't been effective, such as Loaizaga, kind of been up and down there. Cruz not back from the IL yet, so Cashman might be on the hunt there. And whether he can bring in another lefty, that's a possibility as well. Because, again, Tim Hill's been good so far for the Yankees, but he is 35 there. The Yankees haven't been going to a lot. The Yankees could maybe possibly use another lefty as well. So Cashman probably has another move up his sleeve. We'll see what it is. And I thought you saw the news, I guess it was Joe Madden, former Tampa Bay manager as well as former Cubs manager. It was on MLB Network, and they were kind of asking about a couple of different players, and then one, of course, was the Yankees, Anthony Volpe. What would you do with a guy like that? Again, he's good raw talent, only 24 years old, but we've seen some of the mistakes and some of the issues with him, leaving all the runners on, the lack of hitting. Right now, his bad average is down to 213. Now, again, he teases you a little because once you're ready to give up on him, he pops a couple of home runs. We've seen that in Atlanta as well at home against the Phillies. Right now, up to 14 home runs. So all the complaining you want to do about him with 2 months left, and this guy could easily have almost 20, 25 home runs. So it's hard to call him like a garbage hitter, but nevertheless, you look at the batting average, and right now, 55 RBIs. But what you're most concerned with is right now, leads actually second in the majors right now with 13 errors there, and obviously you still have 2 more months to add to that there. So that's really been hurting the Yankees most, especially look at that series up in the Toronto, the last one there. We kicked the ball around, really cost the Yankees 1 game at least, maybe 2 there with some of the sloppiness there. So now Joe Madden, obviously again a manager who's during his heyday kind of considered one of the best, especially down with Tampa there. He says they should send him down to the minors. I can understand the case for it. I just think right now it's too late in the season for that. What's a couple of weeks going to do for him? I don't think it does that much. I mean, if you're going to make that decision, maybe if he was struggling a little bit early on, which wasn't as bad, maybe that's when you make a decision. But I don't think you do that now. I just think kind of grit and bear it, go the way. Unless he just completely implodes, then you're going to have to bench the guy. But I don't think he'll get to that point there. But I think just sending him down to the minors right now, I just don't think it helps that much. I mean, he's really been here on 3 seasons, kind of established himself. I mean, he got his Gold Glove in his rookie year there, but that doesn't mean you can't be sent down. But I just think it's a little too late in the game. Maybe now during the offseason you have to work on something with him, maybe winter ball, something with fundamentals, so you don't have some of the sloppiness there. Again, he still pulls off some good plays, so he's not like complete garbage yet, but again, still too many errors there in a key position there, especially now with the Yankees, almost leaning to win like almost, not say every single game, but pretty close to it there, especially if you dug yourself a 5.5 hole there in the AL East there. So, I think I see Joe Madden's point there, but I wouldn't send him down at this point. We'll just kind of ride it out for the rest of the season, and then this winter, you're going to really have to do something to get into his head, whether it's winter ball or just really some intensive stuff there so he could clean it up for next season. And with all these trades and players going back and forth, there is a little sad news. The Yankees have lost Carlos Carrasco. Cookie, finally no longer with the Yankees. Again, he kind of hung on a little bit longer than we thought he would. Obviously came in kind of a spring training, kind of a minor league, almost invite there. Was impressive enough to get a major league contract. The Yankees kind of wrote him out for a couple of months. But of course, it kind of faded out. They had to send him down to they DFA'd him first there. The Yankees weren't able to, no one claimed him off the wires there. So he did accept a AAA assignment. Again, at age 38, he could have just elected to be a free agent. He didn't. Yankees then brought him up a little bit in June there, during the Dodgers series as the Yankees were kind of fluctuating some guys ties up and down there. But nevertheless, had a DFA him yet again, went to AAA yet again. It looks like finally he's gone from the Yankees. They traded him to the Braves for cash considerations, which, good for him. He's going to get a shot with the Braves. We'll see what we can do with them. Again, they're kind of really going nowhere, so they just probably want to comp it on there, eat some innings. Now, when they did send him to the minors, AAA, again, he was pretty decent for the Yankees. So in 11 appearances, 10 of those were starts. He pitched you an ERA of 3.27, which is okay. And I know the Yankees have some issues. Obviously, Will Warren seems like he's fading out a little bit. You lose Clark Schmidt. I know Cam Schlitt has been up here. Overall, has been impressive for the Yankees there. But I don't think it's someone you put Carrasco in there into the mix there. Again, I think he kind of squeezed as much juice he could get out of the guy early on in the season. That's kind of what his role was a little bit there. Again, to his credit there, he wanted to stay in the minors, see if he could get, impress somebody, get a job. Looks like he did with the Braves there. So obviously, just wish him his best of luck there. The Braves really not going anywhere so for this postseason there, but at least he could pitch out the rest of the season, and you'll see if he wants to continue after that or maybe just retire. And congratulations in order for your former Yankees pitcher, CC Sabathia, also formerly with Cleveland as well as Milwaukee, but best probably known with the Yankees, spent 11 seasons with the Yankees, and of course part of the 2009 World Series championship team there. Finally inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, because joining with him was Ichiro, the first Japanese-born player to be introduced into the Hall of Fame, of course Billy Wagner, and of course with the Veterans Committee voting in both Dick Allen and Dave Parker. Unfortunately, Dave Parker passing away just a couple of weeks ago. I'm not able to appreciate it, but I guess he will be in the Hall of Fame as well. And Sabathia, as we all figure, his plaque with the Yankee hat on, which is most appropriate. I know he also has some good seasons with Cleveland, but I think he became an ace, kind of a veteran type of leader type of pitcher, and of course winning the championship with the Yankees there makes the most sense there. So congratulations to him. And again, this is yet another Yankee cap in the Hall of Fame. And a little bit old news perhaps, but at least new here on Section 420 Talking Yankees, and that's of course Yankees Old Timers Day and some of the little controversy around that. Now it's scheduled for Saturday, August 9th. Of course you have a standard baseball game, but before that, you have the Old Timers Day, which kind of gotten short a little bit to almost a photo op. Now this kind of started back with COVID, because of COVID there, you don't have some of these older people coming on the field together, which we didn't know how the disease was more susceptible. So they canceled that. When they brought back Old Timers Day, you didn't have that game, the exhibition game anymore. It was just maybe a glorified photo op. Now obviously fans weren't too happy with that, and they were kind of toying around some other ideas. We're thinking about actually doing a softball game, which would have been interesting, but they kind of questioned that, and they're going to go back to the old format, which would be a 2 or 3 inning exhibition game, but just depending on what pitchers are available and who can actually play and who's not actually falling on the floor there, barely able to breathe. Now, in addition to this being an Old Timers game, the Yankees are also going to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the 2000 Championship World Series team. Again, that's the team that beat the Mets in the Subway Series World Series. Again, a series that Yankees had to win there, but it's been a disaster. Now, there's going to be some new faces there, mainly from that 2000 team. Of course, you have Clay Bellinger, Cody's father, so you'll have the moment of them two there. They're going to play that up, but that. Roger Clemens coming back as well. That's going to be a big name. David Justice, as well as Jose Vizcaino, who had that big hit in extra innings to put away Game 1, even though he's a former Met there. And the Yankees pretty much from that point forward had the Series 1, so big hit in Vizcaino in a big spot there. But of course, a lot of other faces that you recognize: Mariano Rivera, Joe Torre coming back, who again he got a lot of good vibes at his appearance at the All-Star game, and of course some of the usual faces: Tino, Bernie, Paul O'Neill, Ron Guidry. But one face that's not going to be there, what's kind of a little stir, is of course the captain, Derek Jeter, at least the previous captain. You figure, well, it's Derek Jeter, he's Mr. Yankee, part of that 2000 team there, and of course he's not playing anymore. He's not an executive with the Marlins, so what gives? Why aren't you coming back? Now, according to Susan Waldman, he's actually going to celebrate one of his daughter's birthdays on that day. You can kind of understand that. A lot of fans will be like, hey, well, can you just put the birthday another time, celebrate in New York, just do the Old Timers Day? Even if you want to play in the game there, maybe just want to at least make an appearance, make a wave there. Get a little disappointing. He has his reasons. I don't know why. Is it a big deal? No. There's plenty of other Yankee stars there. And of course, we always know Derek Jeter's around him. He's all over the media and stuff like that. He's on the Fox Sports and stuff like that there. So it's not like we're not seeing Jeter. Will he come back in the future sometime? Probably. So you're just not going to have him this time around. It is a bit of a bummer because you should be there to celebrate the 2000 Yankee team. But nevertheless, still have some other stars there. So, for Jeter, I'm sure he'll come back in the future. It's just not going to be this year. So that's the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Section 420 Talking Yankees. Happy to be watching on YouTube or TV. And remember, there's the audio podcast version of the show, Section 420 Talking Yankees, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And we'll catch you next time.